Hi guys, Nick Thompson Vet here. The good people at ProDog Raw have asked me to have a little chat about dogs eating weeds and grass and just to put a few things up so that you have a guide as to what's going to happen. So put a few slides up of the most common weeds that you'll find in the garden, on walks and things like this, and just a few thoughts on those and as to their toxicity. Okay, I hope this is useful. The last slide we're going to talk about why dogs eat grass, because we're going to talk about couch grass. Okay, so here we go. So first plant is daisy, and they are toxic, believe it or not. They are from the chrysanthemum family, and they are likely not to kill the dog, but they can, if the dog rushes through a load of daisies, that you can get a rash. Buttercups are similar. And if they eat them, then they can get diarrhea. And that will depend on how sensitive they are and how much they eat. If I see a dog who's eating a lot of these, I'm thinking, wow, is there something wrong with the diet? So a good, balanced raw food diet is going to be really good for the gut, and they're going to have less inclination to eat daisies. So dandelion, everybody knows dandelions. My lawn is absolutely full of the things, and they are non-toxic. Obviously, if you ate a ton of dandelions, it wouldn't do you any good, but for dogs, they are not toxic. On the contrary, you can actually get the leaves, as long as they're clean and haven't got any pesticide on them, what have you, and you can put them into the dog's food, chop them up as part of the greens offering. There's loads at the moment, as my garden testifies, full of, as we see on the screen here, vitamin A, C, K, D and B. Yeah, a little bit of absolutely everything. Lots of minerals in there because they've got a very deep taproot, and so that brings a good variety of minerals in to the plant. So that's a goodie to put. It's free greens, if you like. Okay, so that's a good one to look at. Next, we've got the nettle, and that's obviously non-toxic. If you run through a whole load of them, then you will get an urticarial rash. Urtica is the species name for nettle. They're non-toxic. If the dog chews them, and goodness only knows why they would chew them, you can get pain in the mouth, obviously, there. And if you really, really go to town, they could cause vomiting and ataxia. Okay, as per on the screen. However, it's another free greens. So you get clean, fresh, young, perhaps, nettles. You steam them like you're doing your spinach, and you put them in the dog's bowl when they're in season. Fabulous. Really, really, really rich and very, very valuable. Okay, so toxic. Hedge bindweed. I mean, you just look at it, and for me, that just looks toxic. And I'm going to say, generally speaking, the more colourful a plant, the more likely it is to be toxic. Okay, we've just looked at dandelion, and they've got obviously bright yellow flowers, but so it doesn't hold absolutely true. But usually, the more colourful it is, that you would be thinking, oh, is this poisonous? So hedge bindweed, nasty, nasty, nasty. They tend not to eat it per se. They'll be eating it when they eat, grasses. Maybe there's some couch grass nearby or something like that. So it's one of those also ran. They can ingest it, and they'll make you really very sick, vomiting, organ failure. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Lamb's quarter is used by humans, foragers, to they'll go and grab it from the environment and cook it up and use it as spinach substitute, if you like. But really, dogs can eat a little bit of it, but it's got quite a lot of oxalates in it, so I don't think eating it on a regular basis for dogs is a great idea. Personally, I just avoid, but if the dog does get hold of a bit, then you shouldn't be too bad. Okay, Cleavers, one of my favorites. Cleavers, they have this wonderful many-sided stem with lines of hair going down them, okay, which is different from chickweed, which we'll talk about in a second. They're obviously non-toxic, and they're actually really quite good for dogs to eat. If your dog is eating loads of it, then I'd be looking at the diet, or I'd be looking at the health of the dog themselves, okay? So, great. As long as they're clean, then this is great for dogs to eat. And we use them from a herbal perspective. We use them to help with lymphatics, to help with the circulation of lymph around the body. So this is all good stuff. Okay, chickweed, that's the picture above, is non-toxic, okay, but it looks very similar to euphorbia below, which is super toxic, okay, so you have to be careful. If in doubt, then you don't really want to go anywhere near it. And if your dog does eat something that might be euphorbia, I would be going to the vet and getting with some of the plants so that they can identify the plant, okay? Chickweed has a single line of hairs on its stem. And so that's how you can differentiate it from the nasty euphorbia. Chickweed, herbally, we use a tincture or a powder or dried herb for skin conditions, okay? So it's not innately toxic. But euphorbia, nasty, as the name suggests, cancer weed, radium weed, nasty stuff to be avoided. Another toxic one, which does hold with the color thing. This is what the leaves and the plant looks like. It's very, I think it looks kind of slightly, what would you say? It looks a bit imposing and a bit don't eat me, I think. Okay, so in flower, it has these beautiful yellowy flowers which look a little bit like tansy or ragwort, both of which are toxic. So basically, tall yellow flowers. You know, the dog really wants to avoid those. Okay, so. Dock, again, one of my favorites. Beautiful. We use it for rubbing on your skin after you've been stung by nettle. It's not really that toxic. It does have a lot of oxalates in it, so you don't want to be feeding it to the dog on a regular basis. Oxalates can cause kidney stones, and so that's not a great idea. But you know, if the dog gets a bite of this, it's not really a big deal. They're slightly irritant, but we do use them in the herbal tradition for things like kidney disease. They're quite useful there. So not really toxic. If you really go to town and have loads of it, then there is an idea that it's nephrotoxic. It can affect your kidneys, okay? But don't eat it, really. Don't let the dog eat loads of it. If the dog is wanting to eat this stuff, then you've got to think why. And finally, couch grass. I love couch grass. Fantastic stuff. My guys, whenever we start on a walk, they will just have a little nibble of this grass, and that's absolutely fine. They're not sick. I'd like to think they eat a really great diet. They're Whippet cross Italian greyhounds. And so a bit of couch grass is absolutely fine. I think dogs have been grazing a tiny bit of grass forever, and therefore I think it's absolutely fine if they go for this. It's obviously not toxic. It does have some nutritional element to it. But it brings up the question of why do dogs eat grass at all? Okay, so there's a few reasons, and it's very difficult to differentiate which from which. But I would just say if they're eating a small amount, like my dogs, then it's not an issue. It's just one of those things. However, some dogs will eat more if their diet is not balanced, it's not good for them individually. They may graze more of a grassy type material, and that then you've got to look at your diet. Some dogs, if they're not getting enough fiber in their diet, will use the plant fiber or even bone fiber. Come to that, they will go for the couch grass if in order to try and boost that belly filled, that fiber intake. Some dogs, if they're not getting enough greens within the diet, will go for it because obviously it's this high chlorophyll goodness that they want to go for. Some dogs will eat more than usual just out of habit, just because they do, or because they live with the dog who also does it and they've learnt from them. Okay. The important thing is that if your dog suddenly starts eating grass, then it might be because they've either got a colitis and enteritis, or they feel the need to vomit. Okay, and dogs will often, when they're feeling a little bit nauseous, they'll say, right, let's get this thing going, and they'll take some grass and then bring up the grass with whatever's in the stomach that they want to come through. So they will use it by way of kind of self-medication. Okay, but all these different aspects are kind of roll into one. Obviously, if the dog vomits, then you'll know it's all about vomiting. One vomit, not a problem. If the dog is continually going for grass or suddenly has to get up at 2 a.m. and runs outside to eat loads of grass, you know that there's something happening. And I would suggest you talk to the vet about, is the dog well? Is the gut well? Do we need to do any investigation at all? Okay, so there we go. If you need any more information, if I would have a chat with your food supplier, ProDog have a very good set of guys who are well trained in helping with nutritional issues, and if they can't get to the bottom of something, then it'll usually come back to me, and I'd be really happy to talk to you. So there you go. Have a great day. Get your dogs out. Plenty of exercise, and if they're munching something a little bit of something green, then it's usually not too much of a problem. I hope that helps. Thanks a lot.